This fake HOA cop thought he could keep driving over my property. Guess what? He can't anymore. That's how this all started, with a man who thought his shiny truck and fake badge gave him permission to ignore boundaries. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. See, I live just outside the main HOA development. Same postal code, different jurisdiction. My land stretches out behind the cul-de-sac, about 3 acres of woods and one old hunting path that's been in my family for decades. That path is private. It cuts through thick pine and curves down to a small clearing where I keep an old hunting shed and a few trail cameras. But lately, someone had been using it like a shortcut. Deep tire tracks, crushed undergrowth, and even empty energy drink cans tossed in the ditch. I checked the footage from my trail cam one morning, and there he was, an HOA cop. Black tactical vest, smug expression, and a company-issued truck with the letters HOA Police stenciled across the door. He'd been driving straight through my property to get to the backside of the construction site behind the neighborhood, saving himself 5 extra minutes of driving by cutting across my land. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe he didn't realize the hunting path was private. So I walked over to the HOA office the next day, politely as I could, and asked to speak to the president, Deborah Collings. Deborah was all smiles until I explained why I was there. Her tone changed instantly. "Oh, that's just Officer Daniels," she said. "He's allowed to access that area for community patrol." "On my property?" I asked. "There's no community out there, Deborah. It's woods." She gave this tight little shrug. "He's performing duties for neighborhood safety. I'm sure you understand." I understood all right. She was defending him, even though my land wasn't under HOA control. I dealt with enough power-hungry board members to recognize the type. So I called my lawyer, told him the situation. He laughed and said, "Install private property and no trespassing signs, record everything, and if he keeps crossing your line, that's criminal trespass. You'll be in the clear to act." That's when the plan started forming. Over the next few days, I reinforced the path entrance with fresh signs, motion cameras, and a thick gravel layer. I even left a bright orange cone in the center. Couldn't miss it. But the next morning, tire marks again. Fresh ones. Cone flattened. I checked the footage. Same guy, same truck, smirking like it was some game. That was it. I didn't get mad. I got precise. I called up a buddy who works construction, borrowed a strip of retractable tire spikes, and buried them just deep enough to stay hidden under the dirt near the curve, right where his tires always cut wide. The next afternoon, I sat on my porch, coffee in hand, waiting. At 4:37 p.m., I heard it, the deep growl of his engine, the crunch of gravel, then pop, pop, pop. Silence, followed by a string of curses that made me grin into my cup, because that's when it hit him. He wasn't on HOA property. He was on mine, and he'd just learned that lesson the hard way. He came storming at me, red-faced, furious, and limping from the adrenaline crash. His shiny white truck sat halfway down the trail, front tire shredded clean through. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he shouted, stomping toward me. I just smiled and said, "Yeah, protected my property." He stopped, chest heaving. "You destroyed HOA property. That's an official vehicle." "Funny," I said, tilting my head. "Because the sheriff's department says the HOA doesn't have official vehicles, you're private security, not law enforcement." That shut him up for a second. His face twisted, half anger, half realization. "You think you're clever?" he hissed. "You're gonna pay for that." "No," I said quietly. "You are." Right then, my lawyer, who I'd called earlier, pulled into the drive. He stepped out, all calm and businesslike. "Afternoon," he said. "I'd suggest you stop talking, sir. You're trespassing again, and my client's cameras recorded the whole thing." Daniel froze. You could see the fight drain out of him. The lawyer gestured to the small security sign on my porch. "Every second of your illegal crossing, every time you ignored the posted warnings, all captured. You've got bigger problems than flat tires." He turned to leave, muttering threats under his breath. But I wasn't done. I called the sheriff's non-emergency line right in front of him and reported the trespass, calmly and clearly. By the time the deputy arrived, Daniels was pacing beside his truck, kicking gravel. The officer took one look at the scene, the signs, the cameras, the spike strip still half visible, and asked the only question that mattered. "Sir, were you given permission to be on this property?" Daniels hesitated. "It's part of HOA patrol." The deputy's brow lifted. "Sir," he said, turning to me, "your land's not under HOA management, correct?" "That's right," I replied. "My parcel ends 100 yards before their border." The deputy sighed. "Then this man's got no legal reason to be here. You want to press charges?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Absolutely." Daniel started shouting, something about doing his job, miscommunication, following orders. But when the deputy asked who gave those orders, the name came out through clenched teeth. Deborah Collings. The deputy radioed it in. 10 minutes later, another unit arrived. This one heading straight to the HOA office down the road. Deborah tried to deny it at first, said it was a misunderstanding that Officer Daniels was ensuring safety, but the dashcam footage from his truck, synced with my trail cameras, told a different story. Unauthorized patrols, multiple trespass incidents, even a clip of her on the radio telling him, "Just use the hunting path. No one cares." That was all the sheriff's office needed. Daniels was charged with trespassing, property damage, and impersonating an officer. Deborah was hit with conspiracy to trespass and unlawful direction of security personnel. As they hauled his truck out on a tow line, I couldn't help but laugh. The irony was beautiful. The man who'd been protecting the neighborhood couldn't even protect his tires. But something told me the HOA wasn't done yet. Because people like Deborah Collings, they don't take humiliation lightly. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. By the end of that week, the HOA office looked less like a community center and more like a crime scene. County investigators were in and out for 2 straight days. Boxes of files, computers, and hard drives hauled out under evidence seals. It turned out Deborah and her so-called enforcement division weren't just harassing me. They'd been running a quiet racket for years, shaking down homeowners for code violations, charging illegal fines, and using guys like Daniels to intimidate anyone who pushed back. And because she ordered Daniels onto my land outside HOA jurisdiction, she gave the county the perfect excuse to dig into everything. The fallout hit fast. Daniels took the first plea deal, 6 months in county jail and 2 years probation for trespassing, property damage, and impersonation of an officer. His official truck repossessed as evidence. Deborah didn't get off that easy. The DA stacked charges, fraudulent representation, conspiracy, and coercion, and was fined $25,000. When the reporters showed up outside the courthouse, she tried to cover her face with a file folder, but every camera caught her trembling hands. The HOA board dissolved within the month. Members resigned one by one, claiming they had no idea what she'd been doing. Sure. Meanwhile, I just kept living my life, hunting on weekends, fixing the fence, and enjoying the silence. The same trail that used to echo with the rumble of his truck now only heard the crunch of my boots and the call of crows overhead. The county sheriff called me a few weeks later. "Thought you'd like to know," he said. "The HOA funds are frozen, and Deborah's facing restitution for every resident she scammed." I chuckled. "Guess the neighborhood's finally getting its dues." He laughed too. "You really planted spikes?" "Only after they ignored the signs," I said. "Sometimes folks don't learn until the road bites back." Now, every time I walk that path, I remember one simple truth. You don't mess with a man's land, not his home, not his peace, and definitely not his road. And that's how a fake HOA cop discovered that trespassing on the wrong land doesn't just ruin your week. It can cost you your truck, your job, and your credibility all at once. What do you think, folks? Did they deserve what they got? What would you have done if it were your land? Drop it in the comments. I'd really love to know. The end.